Welcome to another edition of What the Fatah. If you've been following incidents in India and the turmoil taking place on the streets of some of the cities, at some of the education institutions, a question comes up over the CAA, the Citizenship Amendment Act, which is where did Afghanistan come in as a neighbor of India? If you go onto the streets of this city or anywhere else, it is unlikely for any Indian to know the answer to this question. How did Afghanistan become a neighbor of India? Because right now, they don't share a border. So it's obviously not a neighbor of India. But you're mistaken. India has a 130-mile border with the Republic of Afghanistan, but that area is under Pakistani occupation. And where does this lie? This is in the northwest of a territory called Gilgit Baltistan, and it shares that 130-mile border with the Wakhan Corridor. Wakhan Corridor is a slim piece of territory that separates, first it was the Soviet Union and Gilgit Baltistan. Now it is, I think, Tajikistan or Uzbekistan that is the border on the north side. But legally, as a question of sovereignty, India has a border, a common border with Afghanistan, which currently is occupied by Pakistan. Which again begs the question, how did Pakistan end up in a territory that was part of India? It's a very interesting story. Everyone knows about Pakistan's invasion of the state of Jammu and Kashmir just after 1947. Of course, the state of Jammu and Kashmir was one of the princely states that had to decide whether they would join the Republic of India or the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. At the time of Pakistan's invasion of this territory, that entire territory included not just Kashmir, Jammu, Ladakh, but on its northern side, a vast territory known as the Gilgit Agency, city of Gilgit, and even the Hunza, Skardu, all these cities, right up to where the Chinese border is, were part of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, the princely state. And when the Maharaja acceded to India, those territories were supposed to be part of India's territories. However, in between what was happening at the time, there's a character called Major Brown. Now, of course, he was not brown. He was British, and therefore a white man, but with the name Major Brown, who on his own, he was put in charge over there by the Maharaja of Jammu and Kashmir to be in charge of the troops. He was loaned from the British Army to be an officer in charge of the Maharaja's troops over there. Major Brown had other considerations. He reported back to the colonel on the Pakistani side, but not after he had overtaken the Indian troops over there, arrested the Maharaja's colonel over there, and then, with the connivance of the Pakistan army, simply handed over the keys of this vast territory of Gilgit Baltistan to Pakistan that still holds it. And at various times it's called Northern Territory. Sometimes, I remember in 1974 when I was touring that area with the then Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, that he publicly announced that he was merging Gilgit Baltistan into proper Pakistan. But then saner heads prevailed and said, Mr. Bhutto, Mr. Prime Minister, if you do that, the case that Pakistan has at the United Nations that this is disputed territory will go down in tatters. So Gilgit Baltistan again became Gilgit Baltistan. The people of Gilgit Baltistan are completely different from what their neighbors to the west and south are mostly Pashtuns. Gilgit Baltistan is a territory that has more in common with Ladakh and Tibet and even Bhutan. Its language, Balti, is a Tibetan, Eastern Tibetan language and spoken widely in the area. It does not speak either Hindi, people over there do not speak Urdu, and up to the 14th century, the entire population was Buddhist. Two forces arrived in Gilgit Baltistan to Islamicize it. First, the Kashmiris, Muslims and the Punjabi Muslims from the south, and then from the north, the Turkmens and other tribals who entered the territory and literally formed a new basis of Islam, completely different. The Baltistan Muslims are to a certain degree Shia, but they belong to a sect that is completely separate from whatever is in Pakistan. To cut the point short, Baltistan's tragedy still continues. A friend of mine has resurrected the alphabet, which has come back into use. But prior to that, just like Kashmiri has died in Pakistan, not a single person speaks the Kashmiri language in Pakistan. This might be a surprise to many Indians. But Baltistan has revived its language, its script, and its relationships with the people of Ladakh and further to the east in Tibet. And it is said that some people in Bhutan also understand the Balti language, though I'm not too sure about that. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is another piece of Indian history that is not taught in your universities, that is not taught at JNU, and not even at the School of South Asian Studies, where I happened to speak one day, and I asked the 200 students there if they knew the difference between Balochistan and Baltistan, and they couldn't tell them apart. It's a sad story of Indian students not knowing what has been taken away from them, and hopefully someday some leader, maybe Prime Minister that currently sits in Delhi, will stand up and say, this is our territory and we are going to take it. Perhaps before that happens, Pakistan itself will wither away. And I hope that happens sooner than later for the peace and prosperity, not just for India, but also for the people of Pakistan. Thank you very much. And until next time, when we talk about Balochistan, Khuda Hafiz, Fi Aman Allah, Jai Shri Ram, Jai Hind.